As the election campaign crackles into life, more than 50 MPs have decided to step away from the fray. Over lunch in a quiet corner of Westminster, we try to find out why so many well-known faces will be missing from the Green benches after the 12th of December. There's been quite a lot of MPs who have been standing down recently. Amber Rudd, for example, announced recently, Heidi Allen. Some of these MPs have spoken about the difficulties of the job, you know, the abuse, the stresses, obviously the Brexit debate has been quite toxic at times. Have you seen anything like this in your time at Parliament?
Well, the toxicity, I mean, I believe, you know, Heidi, and I'm sure you've had a lot of it, it can be very nasty, but it involves actually listening to incoming social media, which you don't have to do. But that's where a lot of the toxicity is. I have to say, I don't feel in some ways it's as bad as it's been in the past. I mean, I was politically active in the days of Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood, and I had a mixed marriage, so, you know, for me that was the low point in British political history in terms of toxicity and violence. And, you know, we had the Thatcher years and the miners' strike and the poll tax riots, and actually people are not being violent, you know, despite all these threats that Brexit's going to lead to rioting. I mean, actually most people are actually quite rational and dispassionate about it.
How do you agree with that then, or do you think that it has been a bit more toxic than perhaps others?
I think I am so used to the abuse that it's going to take me a little while once I'm out of the other side it has just become a fact of life. It's only on social media, you're right. So I assume that when the word MP is removed from my social media, then it will reduce. But I'm used to it, and I don't think that's healthy, actually, I'm used to it.
I think the difference is we're more accessible than we were. And I'm like Vince, I have nothing to do with social media. I cannot see the point. I couldn't send a tweet to save my life. You know, there's a bogus Twitter site.
There is, it's quite funny.
It's very funny, I get good feedback. But I don't do any of all that. And the female MPs in particular, the women, seem to get abused horrendously by these anonymous people, who's sad people sitting in their bedsits sending abuse out. I quite understand the sort of abuse that some people have been getting. It's all very well for me. It is difficult to be totally laid back about the appalling things.
You've given me a good perspective on it, though, actually.
Yeah.
I think there's this crucial difference, the face-to-face versus the anonymous. I mean, during the coalition, particularly at the beginning, you know, I had people spitting in the streets and, you know, real unpleasantness, which I don't get. I mean, I find even the Brexiteers tend to be quite polite. I mean, maybe it's me, I don't know. But I don't have that kind of physical aggression, but in the indirect, anonymous world of social media, you do get it.
How are you feeling about the thought of standing down after so long in Parliament?
Well, it's slightly sad, but I've been anticipating it for so long. It's just, you know, I was expecting to retire. I said I wasn't going to stand again after the 2015 election. And then we had this funny, unexpected election, so I changed my mind and did one more. But I've known I was going to retire for ages.
Do you expect to be retiring now?
Well, I always thought when I stood for Parliament that probably around a decade for me was what I had in mind. Now, if I had wanted to stay for longer, though, after the last 4 years, I'm not sure I would have done anyway.
And do you think the pressures have been more recently then? Or?
The last 4 years has been tough because, of course, it's not just the Brexit debate, but that was preceded by a civil war in the Labour Party.
Well, it's sort of bittersweet. You know, it's sweet on the days when you think of all the things I'm going to do next, and it's bitter when you realise you're no longer part of the action. But I think in my case, I had an unplanned retirement in 2015, but I came back, so I've now got a planned retirement, and it's based on leaving the party in reasonably good shape and having other things I want to do. I mean, you know, halfway through a book, I've got a newspaper column, my dancing teacher is preparing me for pro-am competitions, so you know, if I left this another 5 years, I'd be in my 80s, and I probably wouldn't be capable of doing any of those things, so I'm getting off now.
So you're going to be doing dancing competitions?
Yes, we've been lined up for Blackpool next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Ken, what do you plan on doing after?
Well, my children ask that question rather nervously every now and again. I shall no doubt continue, be obsessed with politics, but follow with my usual, you know, earnestness. from a slight distance, slightly amused, detached observation of what the next extraordinary turn of events might be.
You've got a bit of a different view, I know, on when it comes to referendums.
Well, yes, I do on the referendum. I've sort of, gosh, the thought of putting the country through that again, I just couldn't. I have argued against doing that. And you know, we're sort of quite similar. We're quite similar. Just leave with a deal.
The last one did disastrous harm to our political institutions.
Do you think we might get to some compromised soft Brexit after this election? I mean, I can't see it, but that would be an elegant way out, wouldn't it?
It would.
They might have to, because the likely outcome is a hung parliament, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, no one can predict this election.
Hung in a slightly different way.
Hung in a slightly different way. And then the one way of resolving it is to have a soft Brexit, which we nearly got with Theresa May's deal, actually.
Yeah. Well, Boris Johnson came closer as well, would you argue?
Well, he said he's altered it
to
in
getting
a funny
it through.
way. Yeah, what he got through was a funny version of Theresa's deal, but then he wanted to have an election, so he used the excuse that he didn't want Parliament to debate or discuss it, and suddenly called this election. Well, if it emerges, if people feel as Gloria does, the one thing that could emerge is going back to something like Theresa's deal and then leaving the EU, staying in the single market, staying in the customs union. Though I think the Scot Nats would want a referendum.
I'm quite interested to know some of your predictions for the election, because I know it's going to be really hard
I will be
to
on the
predict.
sofa with a bottle of Chardonnay. That is one thing, guarantee I can make about election night.
You have quite an interesting perspective on this, though, don't you? Because you have one of these Labour Leave voting seats that the Conservatives are really targeting. I mean, do you think there is enough of those seats that they could potentially win to get a majority?
I'm so nervous about making predictions. All I can say is that I knock on doors a lot because I've got a marginal seat. I mean, it's ridiculous in some ways that a heartland Labour former mining community is now the battleground, but that's where we are. But when I'm knocking on doors, I'm not finding Labour voters who voted Labour in 2017 moving away from us. So, and I am here. So we'll be fighting our butts off, and I am looking forward to being a volunteer for our fantastic new candidate. But you know, it's not easy to see out.
Do you think all the ones who might have moved did move in 2017?
Well, that's
Giving
what.
you,
Yes.
What to another Nottinghamshire MP was a surprisingly close-run thing.
Hugely. So they don't seem to be moving again.
And the Lib Dems are going to be really interesting, aren't they, as well? I mean, because
we're going to make quite a lot of headway. The question is how much headway. I mean, the Tories are going to lose quite a lot of seats in Scotland, up to 20. They may gain something in I don't know about Gloria's seat, but that type of seat. Then the balancing factor was how many remain seats mainly in the south of England, and obviously we win. And the upside is very big, and the downside is not many, and that's the big imponderable.
Well, if the Conservatives don't win Ashfield, then the whole Dominic Cummings theory of people versus Parliament and winning white working class voters is nonsense, because Ashfield, I'd have thought, is the obvious first one in our part of the world, and if they can't win Ashfield, they won't do very well north of the Trent, as Mr Cummings apparently fondly imagines they're going to.
He might need his own bottle of Chardonnay. Mr Cummings.